Well, hello again, everybody. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by 101 Hemp. Now, I've already told you a couple of times about the benefits of raw CBD, of CBDA. Today, I want to talk about some of the products from 101 Hemp. Now, I use a few of their different blends. I use the Alleviate, which is blended with high-quality organic white willow bark, which helps with pain relief, inflammation, and I got to be honest with you, this is the tincture that I take when I get migraines, because I do suffer from migraines. I know exactly how much I need to take to relieve that pain from the migraines, to take off that sharp, gritty edge that a migraine will give me. The other tincture that I use is the Chill, which is blended with high-quality organic passion fruit, and that passion fruit's going to really help with relaxation. And I take this Chill because it really does help me sleep. Now, I don't struggle to fall asleep. I struggle to stay asleep. And when I take this tincture for sleep, I don't sleep longer hours. What happens for me is that the sleep that I get, it's a more restful sleep. I feel more energized, more just well rested when I wake up in the morning, which is what I really need. Now, they also have a Boost, which is blended with organic American ginseng, which is said to help with energy and mental sharpness. Now, I also want to mention that I give my dog Dante their pet tincture. It comes in either bacon flavor or salmon. He likes either one of them. They're great. But for you and I, all of these tinctures, the Aleve, the Chill, and the Boost, they come in a lot of different flavors. For me, I like to use the peppermint or the citrus. I know they have a few new flavors. They have the award-winning blueberry that's out right now. They also have for the holidays a holiday cookie. So go over to 101hemp.org, take a look at their products, and order yourself some raw CBD today. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up to their email mailing list, because that'll give you access to their 12 days of holiday promotions. Because in case you didn't know, CBD makes the perfect stocking stuffer. Now, you can save 25% at checkout and show your support to the show when you use coupon code IMGS25 at checkout. Now, once again, I gotta mention the smart people over at Delta Leaf Labs. I've already told you how they've got a plant DNA sex testing kit that can tell you 4 times faster whether you've got a male or a female plant. But did you know that they also have a THC and CBD screening test? They have a powdery mildew screening test. They even have a fungal contaminant screening test. You can find out whether your plant has things like botrytis or pythium, just to name a couple. And they make it really simple to take a sample from your plant. And after you take that sample, you send it into the lab. A couple of days after they get it, you'll know exactly what you've got to work with, whether you've got a female or a male plant, or whether your plant is susceptible to powdery mildew or some kind of fungal infection. So go over to deltaleaflabs.com today and order your plant testing kits. And don't forget to use coupon code IMGS10 to get 10% off of your order. Well, all right. Now let's start the show. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, cats and kittens, this is the In My Grow Show, the podcast dedicated to taking the mystery out of cannabis. I'm your host, Alex, and I want to thank you once again for taking the time to listen to me. Now, a little later on the show, I am going to play a conversation that I had with Albert Gallegos, who is a marketing strategist, and we're going to talk about a couple of things. But before that, let's get into a couple of things. First of all, I want to give a quick shout out to everybody at the Emerald Cup this weekend. I was supposed to be there, but, the fates just dealt me a different hand. I couldn't wind up going there, but it looks like everyone's having a really great time down there, which as they should, because they are celebrating cannabis. So it's looking like that the second week of December is becoming a really big week in the cannabis industry, because we had MJ BizCon in Vegas this past week, the 11th, 12th, and 13th, and then this weekend, the 14th, 15th, we had the Emerald Cup, which is another really big event. I just want to give a quick traveling tip to everyone. If you are traveling from a cannabis-friendly state back to a state that does not like cannabis, just be aware of what you smell like. You may be going into the airport in LAX or somewhere in San Francisco and saying, it's just a little cannabis. But I don't know, if you're flying into a prohibition state, they may jam you up. So just be aware. Just be aware. Or even if you're flying into a country that doesn't allow cannabis, they may jam you up there too. So just be aware of what you smell like, that's all. You may reek nicely in the LAX or in San Francisco, but some places don't like you to smell that way. That's all. No worries. And something I wanted to mention really quick is that this week there is no Strain of the Week review. Instead, I've taken the time to invite my wife Star to get on the mic and talk about a Cooking with Cannabis class that she went to. And she's going to talk about that here in a couple of minutes. So with that said, let's get into my social media feed. And both of these things that I'm going to talk about are totally local events. You know how a couple of weeks ago I'd mentioned that the California cannabis taxes were about to go up, and I was saying how it looks like, pot shops, cannabis club prices were about to go up because of that, because usually those taxes get passed on to the consumers, that cost gets passed on to us. Well, Sespe Creek Collective, which is a dispensary up here in beautiful Ojai, they sent out an announcement and said that their prices will not go up on January 1 when taxes go up. And that's super cool to hear, because it can't be an easy thing to do. I'm sure them absorbing that cost kind of, is going to cut into their bottom line, but they don't want to pass it on to the consumer. So let's show our appreciation, and let's go buy some flower over there on January 1. That is Sespe Creek Collective, 408 Bryant Circle, Suite C in Ojai. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention in my social media is that the Cannabis Business Council and 805 Cannabis Society are presenting their Cannabis Holiday Party that is happening December 19th, 2019 from 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. It's going to be held at 216 East Gutierrez Street in Santa Barbara, California. You're going to have live DJs, complimentary appetizers, hosted bar, holiday goodies, and sponsored booths. I always love going to these events. I always meet a lot of really great people. I run into a lot of really great people that I've met before, and I find a lot of cool people to talk to bring on the show. So if you can, try to make it there. If you want more details, go to Instagram and find at Cannabis Business Council SB. And that's all I have in my social media feed today. So let's get to the report from the Cannabis Frontline for this week. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is something that happened in Major League Baseball, and this article I did get from the Marijuana Moment. It is titled, Major League Baseball Officials Remove Marijuana from Banned Substance List for Baseball Players. This was put together by Kyle Yeager. Starts off, Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Unions announced on Thursday that they have reached an agreement to remove marijuana from a list of banned substances and will begin to treat consumption by players in the same way that alcohol use is handled. The agreement is the product of negotiation of the league's drug policy, with both parties agreeing that steps must be taken to handle drug issues through a treatment-focused model rather than simply imposing penalties. That's an awesome thing right there, a treatment-focused model. Let's try to help not just athletes, but everybody with the drug problem, not just punish them. Because, if you're really, entangled in drug addiction, man, you're already suffering. We don't need to compound it by making you suffer some more. I think we just need to treat that stuff. All right, so let me continue. With that, MLB will also start to test for opioids and cocaine, and players who test positive will be referred to treatment. Only those who refuse treatment programs will be penalized. Again, that is an awesome thing. It says here, going forward, marijuana-related conduct will be treated the same as alcohol-related conduct under the parties' joint treatment program for alcohol-related and off-field violent conduct, which provides for mandatory evaluation, voluntary treatment, and the possibility of discipline by the players' club or the commissioner's office in response to certain conducts involving natural cannabinoids, MLB said in a press release. In other words, players will only face discipline for violations related to unsanctioned conduct while under the influence rather than simply for testing positive for THC. Previously, a positive test resulted in a mandatory treatment, and failure to comply was punishable by a fine of $35,000. Well, look, everybody, I'm not a big baseball fan. I couldn't tell you what player's on what team, but I applaud any major league sports that wants to take the initiative to really look at the science of marijuana, of cannabis, and drug addiction and other addictions. So, good on Major League Baseball. And it was really interesting because earlier in the week, I had read that they were only going to do this for minor league players. But I guess in the negotiations, they just said, we're going to do it for major league players as well. And that's awesome. Good for them. So yeah, man, 100 points for Major League Baseball, man. And I read on a side note that the NFL, because of this, the NFL is looking to update and change their drug policy when it comes to cannabis as well. So, Yeah, man, change is happening. Positive things are happening, especially in the sports world. Right on. All right, now the other thing I wanted to talk about is, I saw this article up on KTLA Channel 5's website. And the title reads, California weed will need a warning label after panel declares pot smoke THC a risk to moms-to-be. And it starts off, a California panel voted Wednesday to declare marijuana smoke and the drug's high-producing chemical THC a risk to pregnant women and their developing fetuses, and requires warning labels for products legally sold in the nation's largest pot market. The decision by the little-known Development and Reproductive Toxicant Identification Committee will not take effect for a year, and it remains to be seen what impact it will have on the state's emerging marijuana industry. Well, for one, I don't know if it's really going to have an impact. I think a lot of the products that I've seen already have a warning label for pregnant women, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that, but I'm almost sure I've seen it on the label. Yeah, so I'm not sure how it's going to affect them. But what really gets me about this decision, I understand, okay, let's err on the side of caution. Anything that a pregnant woman takes in could affect the baby. I understand that. But to be honest with you, everything I've read in the article and all the science that I've read, we don't know if it does really harm pregnant women or the babies. At least not 100%. We're not, a lot of the studies, a majority of the studies that we have that I know of are animal studies. Now, yes, there are similarities between pregnant animals, mice, things like that, and humans, but they're not exact. Like I've said, we really do need those human studies. But, if regular cannabis studies are hard to do, I'm sure cannabis studies on pregnant women are even harder to do, right? Because, I don't know, nobody really wants to put a pregnant woman and an unborn child at risk, right? We don't really know. But my real trip on this is that women have been using cannabis for different symptoms of pregnancy for thousands of years. Okay, I know at least more than 3 women in my life close to me that have used cannabis during pregnancy because they had what's called hyper-emisis. That means that you have morning sickness all the way through all 9 months, and just raging morning sickness. And the only thing that helped curb that, I'm not saying it helped stop it, it helped curb the nausea and the vomiting, is cannabis. And I know those kids that were born. There's nothing wrong with them. They're A and B honor roll students. They're amazing kids. Now, granted, this may just be anecdotal evidence, but I don't think that cannabis is really the danger to pregnant women and fetuses that, some of these scare tactics and some of these articles are talking about. I've looked for studies. I don't know where it's at, but again, not a doctor. I don't have access to all of the studies that are out there. And, I've already said it. We need more human studies. I don't know. What do you think? Is cannabis bad for pregnant women? Let me know. Send me an email, inmygrow@gmail.com, or find me on Instagram and let me know. @InMyGrowShow. Because it is an interesting topic, and I think I'm going to get my buddy Dr. Jake Felice in here to talk about it, because I also know of some of those medications, some of the pharmaceuticals that they prescribe to pregnant women for hyper-emisis, for hypervomiting. They've been linked to birth defects. What's the solution? I don't know. I think for me, the solution would be let them use cannabis without the stigma, because I know a lot of doctors will also come down on pregnant women for if they, have THC in their system when they do a urine test or a urine analysis at the hospital. I've heard of horror stories in some prohibition states where, pregnant mothers get locked up because they have THC in their system. So, I don't know, man. What do you think? Let me know. And as always, there are links in the show notes to both of these articles, so you can read them at your leisure and come up with your own conclusions. And that, brothers and sisters, is the report from the Cannabis Front Line. So, as I said earlier, I don't have a strain of the week review today for a couple of reasons. One, because I've got some homegrown that I'm working on. But the second one, mainly, is because I want to use that time to talk about something else. A few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, I had signed up for this Cooking with Cannabis class that Sespe Creek Collective was putting on. They're a dispensary up here in Ojai. Sadly, it was on December 11th, and I couldn't make it. And I didn't want to give up the spot for the show. So I asked my wife, Star, if she would mind going. Now, I didn't ask her because she's my wife. Mostly I asked her because she's a really awesome, fearless home chef and an award-winning salsa maker. And luckily for me, she was totally into it. She jumped at the chance. Star, sweetheart, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So this cooking class, I like how you're very just one word, thank you. She's very poignant, very stoic thing. So this cooking class, excuse me. So this cooking class you went to, it wasn't at Sespe Creek, was it?
No, it was actually at a really cool coffee house, Beacon Coffee.
So is it a coffee house or is it like a little bistro? Do they have food? I've never been in there. I don't know.
It's a coffee house, but yeah, it's a kind of higher echelon experience coffee house.
Oh, that's a big word, echelon.
Yes, thank you. But anyway, yeah, it was really neat of them to host. It's a nice space, little kitchen back there. And
the chef that they got to put on this Cooking with Cannabis class was a guy named Omar Uribe, or Uribe, if you don't speak Spanish.
Young person.
So were there a lot of people in this class?
About 8 of us, not including the folks from Sespe and the kitchen, the coffee house there, Beacon. Yeah. Were there
a lot of young people, a lot of older people our age? So we're in our mid-40s. Were there older people there?
Yeah, it was like a good mix of our demographics here in Ojai, actually.
Oh, far out.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I was wondering who was going to actually show up. Was it going to be a lot of older people? But that's cool.
It was good to see some senior folks.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. I'm wondering, I'm sure they had a bunch of questions.
Yes, they did. And we had answers.
Wow. All right. Did you write any of those questions down?
Thanks to you. Oh, it was like where to test, bud that they're growing at home.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I mentioned the place that you said they
what?
Can send in their
bud
to
to
see
Delta
how much.
Leaf? Yeah.
Because the chef actually gets down to, like, he's got a formula to figure out how much THC is in the edibles that he was teaching us to cook.
Like per serving?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like per cookie or per brownie or whatnot.
All right.
Actually, in candy, too. We can make candy if we learned from him.
I think candy's dangerous for me because, I have a sweet tooth. I'll just keep eating and then, 15 gummies deep and suddenly I'm high as a kite. Anyways, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So you show up to this cooking class at Beacon. What are you guys making? What are you making? What's the first thing we're showing you?
Oh, well, making canna butter. We made butter because in order to make an edible, you need a fat to infuse into. So you can use butter, which is what he did. He uses the Kerrygold, that really yummy Irish butter.
Yeah.
And when you're baking and cooking, you want to use the non-salted butter, which he had. And so he said you can infuse coconut oil, butter, of course, and I asked him about schmaltz, which is schmaltz. There you go, Mom. Schmaltz. Schmaltz is the chicken fat that if you want to make really good latkes, you fry your latkes in schmaltz, this chicken fat. It's tasty, tasty, tasty. So he said, yes, we can infuse the schmaltz, and I'm very excited because I will do that and make some higher
THC latkes. I was drawing a blank.
And I will make some THC latkes.
Right. So you're using the schmaltz to make some THC latkes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fry it up.
Fry it up. I like it. If you don't know what a latke is, that's too bad. That's a shame. Okay.
No, dude, come on. There's Mexican version, and a lot of people will know that. It's just a fried.
It's just a hash. It's just a homemade hash brown.
Yeah.
It's mostly what it is. A homemade
onion
hash
and
brown.
potato. Fry it in.
But here in a couple of weeks, they're going to be THC homemade hash browns.
Come and get it.
Yummy, yummy. All right. So what else did you guys talk about? What else did you learn in this?
He just, started with infusing the fat, the butter in this case. And he's actually a big fan of infusing and baking with coconut oil. But so we did butter, and then in between the steps of infusing the butter, we watched how to make the cookie. And each cookie with his formula had 10 to 15 milligrams. Well, they had 15 milligrams of THC in them. And we got to take them home, which was super bonus.
They were pretty good. They were, I only ate half of one, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So far.
What can you do with the gluten-free?
Oh.
We have to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. How they were gluten-free cookies.
They're gluten-free cookies. But he was very professional, and we learned about decarboxylation of the cannabis, which, it might be a new concept for even the seasoned hippie out there, because for years in Topanga at that groovy chick's house who had those groovy parents who let us party, we baked brownies often, and no decarboxylation was happening. So the epiphany at his cooking class was, man, we must have wasted a lot of cannabis in those days in Topanga.
Well, it's not just that, though. We have to remember when we were making brownies, at least when I was making brownies when I was that young, I was still leaving the leaf material in. I mean, my brownies came with leaves.
Yeah, and they tasted
we don't,
as such.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore. We know better. So, okay, so decarboxylation we need to explain, and you asked me this earlier, and I was trying to
come up with a definition.
Well, just come up with an easy definition,
a
simple definition.
Yeah, there isn't. Is there?
Well, no, I mean, okay, so when you decarboxylate, you're basically heating up the cannabis because you want to have that decarboxylic acid to evaporate off. Because when it's raw, all the cannabinoids have the acid attached, THCA, CBDA, but THC, when it has that acid, isn't psychoactive. So what we want to do is activate that psychoactivity. So we heat it up so that acid evaporates away and it's psychoactive and ready for us to eat. Because if we just eat it raw, we are going to get a little psychoactivity, but not as much as you would once you heat it up.
Okay, and on a side note, when you smoke a joint or smoke a bowl of flower, the heat from lighting it is decarboxylating the marijuana, cannabis, and then we are able to assimilate that or...
yeah, the decarboxylation happens instantaneously once we start to smoke it. That's why that's why we don't need to do that when we smoke it.
Yeah, but then if you're making edibles, then you need to do that decarboxylate. And in the oven, Omar explained, in the oven you do not want to heat any higher than 235. You want to go 220 to 235 for a very short amount of time. It's only 30 to 45 minutes. Warning, your house will smell like cannabis. So if the kids are home or the neighbors are close,
they're going to know.
It'll be potent.
They're going to know.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, that's cool that he gave a time frame. I know a lot of people, because you don't want to go too high or too long, because that THC will evaporate off. Those cannabinoids will evaporate off, and then you're just left with plant material that, it's no good to you. Yeah,
he says you don't want the flour to turn brown in the cooking process. And he also said that you can use the slow cooker with your fat. So the smalts, the coconut oil, the butter, slow cooker on low for 3 hours will infuse cannabis.
The butter, or the butter or the oil, whatever fat we're using, right? Coconut oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I do when I make butter or coconut oil. I'll just put it in that little crock pot for 3 hours and just let it pull everything off, and then just
strain.
Yes, there you go. That's the word. Strain the plant material off.
Do not squeeze your cheesecloth.
Why not?
The particles, the bits that you're trying to keep out of your fat will go through the cheesecloth if you squeeze. So you just need to let it sit there for quite a long time.
You know what I've seen people use is a wine press. Those home wine presses. Because, they're like a little cylinder. They've got a screw on top, or, some kind of, think of like a wing nut. I guess you turn it, squeeze it, and it has a little pouring tube.
Is there a filtering?
Yeah. Well, there's a filtering
mechanism?
thing. Yeah, because it's wine. Yeah, you don't want to get any. But I've seen people use that. But that's also when they make, I'm not making that much to where I need a wine press. But if anybody wants to buy me a wine press and send one in, I'll make a video on how to use it or how I'm using it. But anyways, back to cooking. Was that it? Uh-oh, there's Dante. Is he having a dream?
That sounded like a dream sound.
That sounded like a dream bark.
That was definitely a
He
dream
barks
bark.
sometimes he'll bark in his dreams.
I think he sees his mom or something.
Too many rabbits. There's too many rabbits. Was that it?
Yeah. I mean, he showed us how to make a double broiler. If you're not going to use a slow cooker to infuse your fat, you have two pans, a big pan with water in it, a smaller pan in that, and then you have he adds a cup of water to his butter. So while he's double broiling his fat and cannabis that he decarboxylated, he adds a cup of water, and I wish I could remember why, but there's a why. And
we need to get Omar on, and he can explain that to me. Does he add the cup of water? Does he add the cup of water?
He's really passionate about cooking with cannabis, cooking period, but cooking with cannabis, he's really passionate about.
So does he add the cup of water inside the butter?
Yes. So there's water in the double broiler,
and then he adds,
and there's a cup of water with the butter and the cannabis boiling, simmering, just tiny simmer like.
Got to write that down to ask him about.
Yes.
So now, did anybody from CESP give you a sense or a feeling of, is this going to be an ongoing thing they're going to have?
Yes, it will. They did give me that sense. But I think it's a keep us posted type of thing on their website. And also Omar on Facebook mentioned that in February he'll be doing another class, I think through CESP, also at Beacon.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool to see again.
Maybe you could go this time.
Maybe, but you know what? I think out of everybody on staff here at the show, I think you probably get the most benefit from it. Then, I mean, I can go. Yeah,
I definitely enjoy myself learning.
But I don't think I'd be as stoked as you were. So we'll try and keep you going as far as whenever these things come up.
Okay.
Again, I want to thank Sespe Creek for putting this on and for having us on and having us over there. That was really cool of them. Thank you very much. I also want to thank Beacon for letting them have the class there, and Omar for putting it on. That is Omar Uribe. And let's see, he is a personal private chef.
He's a homegrown local Ojai person. He graduated from Nordhoff High School. I don't know, he's got some kind of hometown following, folks that are super proud that he is doing what he dreamed he'd be doing, so being a personal chef. That's
cool. That's cool that he's making his living through his art. That's awesome.
Yes, I told him congratulations on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Star Sweetheart, thank you for taking the time and getting on the mic with us. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
Everybody else, as I said before, I do have a conversation that I recorded with Albert Gallegos. He is a marketing specialist. And he was cool enough to come on the show to talk about, some of the limitations that cannabis companies have when it comes to advertising on the radio. So hang out. I'm going to play a little bit of music and then I'm going to put that conversation on for you. Well, brothers and sisters, check it out. Today on the phone with me, I have Albert Gallegos, who is a marketing strategist. Albert, brother, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, what's going on, Alex? Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be on your show. Definitely been looking forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm glad we could finally put this together, bro. I've been really looking forward to it myself, man.
Yeah.
I'm real curious about what you got to tell me or what we're going to talk about. But
okay,
before we get into it, a few weeks back, I don't know, maybe a little more than a month ago, you posted up some video on your Instagram page about you winning an award.
Yeah.
What was that about, man? What'd you get an award for?
So that's something that is going on. It's called the GERD Awards. So one of my buddies that I met a few years back, I want to say we met back in 2005, 2006. He's a rapper from Northern California, Stockton. And over the years, he's been working with multiple people in the industry. Lately, he produced or he started a brand which is Make America Crip Again. Obviously, he's a he's a Crip. Snoop Dogg saw that and he decided to name his album after that. So one of Snoop Dogg's album is Make America Crip Again, and he has his clothing brand and everything. So Snoop Dogg saw that and he reached out to him and decided to buy the rights and promote the brand. But essentially, what going back to the awards, it's called the GERD Awards. So every year he gets everybody that's involved in the industry, from the underground to the mainstream to the producers, pretty much anybody that's doing something, and just putting the spotlight on that and just giving them props and being recognized for whatever it is that they're doing, for putting in work. So it's not about him, it's pretty much about everybody that's around him. And this year was my third year going. It was the 8th annual. I got nominated as best marketing. So that was an honor for me. It was a great show. And the event actually happens in Newport Beach, California. It's, they have the blue carpet out there. They have the camera crew. We have, have dinner. You're pretty much just networking with people, and, we're there for the same reason, just to celebrate and congratulate everybody that got nominated.
Did you get the award for like your overall abilities, or did you work on a certain campaign that they recognized you
I've been
for?
working with them. Like I said, I have known him over the years. He has seen me, put in work with everything that I do. He's been at the station as well where I work, and just kind of, he just gave me the opportunity and really giving thanks to the work that I do. So that was a great honor for me to get nominated and accept the award.
Well, good for you, man. Congratulations,
Thank you.
bro, man.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about something, man. So you're a marketing strategist, and you work with a couple of different radio stations, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
work with there's overall about like 20 stations all throughout, Southern California. Locally here, there's about 6 stations. There's 4 in English and 2 in Spanish. And some of the things that, as far as us being, working in advertising and marketing, some of the issues that we have to deal with, it's going to be we can't promote or even work with anybody in the cannabis or CBD industry.
Wow. All right. Well, let's take it back though a bit. Let's put. I need a little bit of context. So, what's the regulations like for alcohol?
Apparently, there's no regulations for that as far as alcohol. I
Really,
mean,
they
and I
can.
know in the past we have some of the stations, they have worked with the breweries when they first started popping up. They were actually doing some advertising for them, so there's not really a regulation for that,
Okay. So
as
now.
far as that I know.
Okay. Now, what about for tobacco? Are there any like regulations that you guys got to go by there? Or?
Yeah, as far as that, we haven't been able to do anything with them. I know everything, it's under the FCC. So every 8 years, the stations, they have a contract that they have to renew. But other than that, I mean, everybody has their own opinion. So sometimes, let's say if we go that route and we're advertising tobacco on a station, and maybe the parents or the listeners, they're not for that, they are going to file complaints against the station. So once when it comes to renewing the contract, it might cause some issues. So we have been staying away from as far as that so far. But when it comes to alcohol, there hasn't been no issues.
Oh wow, wow, what a trip, huh?
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's a little, every category, it's a little bit different.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's also a lot of us in the cannabis industry, we like to think that cannabis is singular, is único in the thing, right?
Hmm.
Why are they just picking on us and not letting us advertise when it's yeah? I guess they don't let tobacco advertise either.
Yeah.
Hey, so one thing I wanted to talk to you about because I was really curious. So the state regulations for advertising for cannabis on the radio, as far as how I understand it, it says that an advertiser has to have like up-to-date information or data that 71% of their listening audience is over the age of 21.
Mm-hmm.
So how would a radio station even like get that kind of number or calculate that? How would you even go about finding that out? 'Cause
Well,
that seems
for
kinda
as far
crazy.
as radio, when it comes to broadcasting and also for like TV, I mean, everybody uses Nielsen ratings. It's pretty much a consumer research company that collects data, for the broadcast and the audiences. So it's at the same time it can be very difficult to measure that because whenever I'm a parent, so whenever I'm in the car, I always tune into my favorite radio station, and it could be the kids are always pretty much always with me at the same time. So let's say if the regulations and the laws in California, I mean, it's legal for anybody to consume cannabis or CBD as long as they're 21 and over. When it comes to advertising that on the radio, it's going to be very difficult to measure that because, I mean, it could be like kids underage there. So yeah, it's very difficult when it comes to keeping track of that information.
Yeah, because when I read that, I was wondering. I was like, well, how do you even track any of that? That just seems like but yeah, I guess, man. That's what the state wants.
Yeah.
Fuck. Now, I know you work with stations like Coast to Coast,
Mhm.
right? And so, do you guys stay away from cannabis because it's federally illegal?
As of right now, we have had these meetings with management, and also we have an attorney for the FCC that oversees the stations and everything. As far as that, yeah, man, it's very complicated. So far, we have tried different ways to get it approved or try to go around it. So far, the answer is no. A few months back, though, I did bring it up to the attention of management. I did happen to hear, I'm going to use this as an example. One of the Spanish radio stations, they were actually advertising one of the cannabis locations from Oxnard, and their way of doing it they were not talking about cannabis or CBD. They were talking about getting more information when it came to relieving pain, if they had trouble sleeping, educating the person for them to come in and give them the right product for depending on whatever the need was. So we have tried different ways to go around it without even mentioning that it's cannabis or CBD. But as long as it comes back, when we create the account and it's like the business, it's either a CBD or a cannabis company, we just can't do it. We have to turn it down. As far as right now, I know a few weeks back there was a new law to approve cannabis on a federal level, but hopefully by next year we're able to move forward with that.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. Wow, that is a really interesting way to frame it, like as a location where you can get some education about health.
Yeah, and that was a great.
That's a good idea.
How they did it, but then again, I don't know how.
Right, as soon as you got to follow the money, as soon as it goes back
Yeah,
to
I
which
don't know
account
what
it
the
is.
contract look. I don't know any of. That's a completely different ball game. So I don't know how they did it, but they managed to do it.
Hey, so I'm wondering, you mentioned CBD, so they don't allow you to advertise CBD either, even though...
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we have tried already as well, and the answer comes back as no still.
So anything related to whether it's cannabis, just totally taboo, you can't mention it.
Correct.
Wow, what a trip, man.
Mm-hmm.
But, because now I want to go back to that whole education thing because, I mean, you and I, we're both Mexican descendant,
Yeah.
And there is, while there's a need for education in all communities, but especially I feel like in the Spanish-speaking community because we're of two minds of it, because our abuelas always had it in the leaves in a jar with the rubbing alcohol for their arthritis. But as soon as you tell your abuela, your grandma, hey, no, I like to party with marijuana, with cannabis, all of a sudden you're the devil, you're part of the cartel and, all this other baggage comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, that's just a great idea. The way they tried to do it, as far as just like an educational thing, even though
Yeah,
like you said,
definitely.
it came back.
They were trying to change the mind of the Hispanic community, and whether if it worked or not, I'm not too sure. But at least the message was out there. And then again, like things have changed now. Like over the years, now you're pretty much seeing it everywhere. A lot of the times when you go to events, for whether locally here, a lot of them they're sponsored by those companies, and their name is being put out there. So now they're only seeing it as like, oh man, like this place where they sell cannabis, it's giving it back to the community. So they're trying different ways to get their name out there and let people know it's not just about you know because the Hispanic community, they have that like, oh, you're smoking weed,
Yeah, you're a
you're
marijuana, you're
crazy,
this or
like,
that.
or
Yeah, yeah.
they see it as the worst thing ever when it's in reality it's not, so they're trying to change that the person's the way of thinking, because like my parents, my grandma, they were raised a certain way, and I know, like, once I talk to them about it, my mom can understand it, but everybody else in my family cannot, so everybody's different. So I get where they were going with that. But,
Yeah, and that's the whole point of these conversations, man. Is just to change, take the conversation in a different direction.
yeah.
Hey, so tell me about how does terrestrial radio? How are you guys competing with like satellite radio and cord cutters, man?
Well, some of our stations, we are available. We have a digital division and we have a streaming as well. So some of our stations can be streamed via an app or desktop or smartphone, tablet. So we keep track of that information as well. I mean, on our digital side, we can actually run ads on different streaming apps, for example, like Pandora and stuff like that too. So we can tap into that. So we're not really competing against that because aside from streaming, aside from broadcasting, we're also available on the streaming.
Well, but can you guys, like, through the streaming, can you guys still do like regional targeted advertising?
When it comes on the digital side, yes, we can. We can get very specific of who we want to target just based on of their age, their income, their interest.
But I'm wondering now, are you guys just advertising on the digital side like nationwide companies, or can you like get down to the local level and say, well, look, these accounts, they stream from the 805?
On the digital side, we can get very specific of where we want to target. So we can go down by 1 mile. We can go break it down by zip code.
Oh wow!
I can do a radius of 5 miles. Everything's pretty much, we're just using cell phone towers, creating like a quote unquote a digital fence to just focus in that area, especially the audience that we're going after that are within the fence. So when it comes to digital, we can get very specific of who we want to target based, once again, based on their income, their age, whatever their interests are.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because when we were talking before, when you told me about that, you guys had a digital division. I'm wondering, well, do you guys how localized do you do your commercials?
Mm-hmm.
So wow, that's a trip, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, so bringing it back to the cannabis part, man. Do you see any like advertising strategies that cannabis companies could use that are available to them that they're just not using enough of?
Yeah, of course. I mean, aside from social media, I know there's independent like companies out there that they have independent advertising and marketing companies that operate individually. Probably they don't have to worry about, or maybe they don't have their a license that they have to worry about.
Yeah, we're not really ruled by the FCC, man. That's why I love
Yeah.
podcasting, bro. See, you got to come over, man.
Yeah, but I mean, social media is great. It's definitely like a free platform, and I have seen some digital advertising sometimes when I go online too, for local dispensaries out here. So they're already doing it, but as far as they're not doing it through us.
Right. I see that, man. Cool. All right. Well, hey, Albert, I want to thank you for getting on the phone with me, bro, and talking to me about this, man. I really appreciate
of course, man. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Once again, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. This is, one of the issues that, as far as, being on the advertising and marketing, working with this company, sometimes we have to turn down business due to some regulations that we have to follow. These are things that we have to deal with. So I'm fighting for it. I'm all for it. But as of right now, I mean, the answer is no. So hopefully in the near future, we're able to, they change their mind, and it's part of what we do as far as our business, and we can move forward with that.
Far out, man. Far out. Well, once again, man, thank you very much for taking the time getting on the phone with me. Do me a favor. Don't hang up. Okay?
Okay.
Everybody else, I'm going to play some music, and I'll be back. Well, everybody, what do you think about that? After talking to Albert, I don't think we're going to be hearing a lot of cannabis commercials on the radio anytime soon. Well, that's okay, because that just leaves a lot more room for those cannabis companies to advertise with podcasts. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends of mine, that's it. That's all I have to share for you today. Those are all my notes. Don't forget, if you have a question or a comment about this episode, please don't hesitate to send me an email at inmygrow@gmail.com, or just find me on Instagram at inmygrowshow. You can also find me on the Cannabis app at Alex Robles. Again, I want to thank all the artists who let me use their music to put the show together. I also want to thank my buddy Albert Gallegos, and I also want to thank my wife Star for getting on the microphone with me and talking about that cannabis cooking class. That was a lot of fun having her on. I realized after having her on that I need to learn how to interview my wife. Anyways, don't forget, everyone, if this show has entertained you, educated you, or even given you a little escape from your day, you can show your support for the show by going over to patreon.com/inmygrowshow and leave a financial donation. Those funds just help me pay for different hosting fees, buy equipment, and just make it easier to keep the show going all the way around. Now, if you don't want to leave a donation at Patreon, you can go to inmygrow.com, click on the support the show link, and buy a t-shirt. Or even easier, especially during this holiday season, before you go shopping at Amazon, click on the Amazon link at the top of the show notes so they know that we sent you and the show gets a commission. And don't forget, if you can't support the show financially, don't worry about it. I get it. Here's how you can help, though. I need you to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to it, and then subscribe to the website inmygrow.com, and then go over to YouTube and search for In My Grow Show with Alex. Subscribe to the channel. All those subscriptions just help the show standing and helps us out immensely. Don't forget that we are trying to get more subscribers to the YouTube channel so we can get a URL that is specific to the show. Alright, now after you do all that subscribing, you just got to do one more thing. Tell 3 other people about the show. That's it. Real simple, real easy. Alright, everyone, I'm going to get up on out of here. You know I love you all very much, and remember to always grow, learn, and teach.